Hi there, very good day to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us in your next session of this module. Today, we're going to have a look at the implication of changes that happens in theory, policy, and practice connected to education on the stakeholders. What are the impacts? What are the changes, or what are the effect that happens in the stakeholders of education when changes happens in theory, policy, and practice? Okay, so to study this, first of all, we need to know who these stakeholders are. Who are they? And who are they for education related matters, education related industry, education related organization. So let's have a look at that first. Who is a stakeholder and who is a stakeholder in educational settings? Now, we know what or who stakeholders are. Who are these stakeholders? We know them somewhat, and let me give you some example or some definition of it before I kick off to the main part of the lectures tonight. Now, stakeholders means people, individuals, people or individuals connected to some projects, connected to some events, connected to some business, connected to some organization, connected to some of your programs. Those are the people, we call them stakeholders. The definition is extended. You can have a better definition than this one, but I'm giving you the brief of it. For example, if you have a wedding function, in your wedding function, who are the stakeholders of that function? The people involved in the bride and the bridegroom, they are stakeholders of that function. If you have one of them missing, if the bride is not in the show, in the stage of your wedding function, there is no wedding function. So he's part of that. He's a stakeholder. When you get this wedding done, you will have your registrar. He will be registering this marriage contract in his document. If the registrar is not there, then there is no wedding. You might need a couple of evidences, couple of witnesses. In fact, witnesses, you need to have two personnel to witness this engagement, this wedding. If you don't have the witnesses there, wedding doesn't take place. Okay, so these are the people, they are the stakeholders because they have some contribution towards this organization or towards this event. They have some contribution, they have some interest in this event, this wedding. The bride and the bridegroom, they have some interest over this wedding. The father, mother, the parents of both bride and the bridegroom, they are stakeholders. They have some interest over this. Okay, so these are the people, we call them the stakeholders, right? Now, that is not limited to the interest over the event, over the function, over this business. It's about the influence or the power as well. For example, in this wedding, okay, in this wedding, let's say the boy is the bridegroom, and the boy, when he is getting married to this girl, okay, this boy, before this wedding arrangement, this boy might have another affair in the past. He might have had a girlfriend in the past. That girl is not interested in this wedding because she doesn't want him to get married to this girl. She might want him to get married to her. So she is not interested in this wedding. She wants to destroy this wedding. She doesn't want him to get married to this new girl. So she's also part of this stakeholders list. The reason is because she has some power to destroy this event. She can do a couple of things. She can send a message to this new girl saying that your husband, who you get married today, was my ex-boyfriend, and we used to live together, and so on. If you send a message like that, this wedding function may get dissolved. This wedding function may not happen. Okay, so she has some power over this function, over this event. She is not having any interest on this. So she's also part of this stakeholders list. So let me redefine my definition here. Whoever the people interested in this particular event or in some business or in some program or some deal, interested parties, and the parties, they have the power over it as well. They are all stakeholders. Okay, you need to know exactly who they are. If you don't, or if you ignore some kind of stakeholders, they are enough to destroy your program, right? Let's say you are studying your education management master's degree now, and for this program you have stakeholders. The first number one stakeholder is you yourself. Okay, you are part of this project. With that, uh, your lecturers, they are part of it. If you don't have your lecturers, if you don't work with your lecturers, if you don't support uh, your lecturers, you won't be able to get your course done. So you have to work with them. Lecturers have interest over your project, and they have the power over your project. Of your project means your education as well. They can destroy your education if you don't support. They may fail you. Okay, so you have to work with your lecturers. You have to work with your course coordinators. You have to work with your family members at home because you have to study. Most of you are in your room to listen to the lectures tonight, and if you're married, your kids are outside, or if you're not married, your parents are waiting outside, and you don't need them to disturb you. They want you to support you. Your light is on. You're listening to the video or lectures. It is disturbing them, but they still have to give some support to you, so they are part of it, and they may be paying your course as well. Your parents might be paying, your husband might be paying. They're all stakeholders because they have interest over you. If you don't work good with them, they may say, I'm not going to pay your course fee. Okay, so these are all your stakeholders. Any project you do, they are your stakeholders, right? And if you if you ignore one of them, they may cost your project. That is why you have to find out every single stakeholder connected to your project, if they have interest over you, as well as the power over you as well. They may have some power over this project, so you have to manage them also, so you can get your work done easily. So it's number one requirement to identify all the stakeholders of any project you do without missing anyone, so that you can get your project done easily. That's number one message. Number two message is this. I have given a mobile phone here to explain a bit of extra things on this. Now, the mobile phone, you're using your phone, you have a phone with you, you have a smartphone. Every one of us have a smartphone, and most of us have come to this class on this device. Now, you never leave your device on the table unattended without any password in it. You always have the password in that username, maybe the password only. Nobody has access to this phone. You deny the access to anyone to this phone, even to your partners sometimes. The reason is because you don't want anybody to know what is happening inside you, because this phone is the only material, only device in this world that knows every single thing about you. Where have you been? Who are you in touch with? Who do you talk to? Who do you chat with? Okay, which websites did you go to? Everything what you do is in this phone. This phone knows it, and you don't want others to know it. That is why you give a password. Okay. So the reason why you keep the access limited to only you, you deny the access to the others, it's because if someone get to know about your personal matter, one of those, he will become part of that stakeholders list of that project. Let me explain this using an example. Let's take a good example. Doesn't matter how severe it is. Let's say uh, a, a little girl or a boy, he or she is having an affair with some other girl or boy right now, you go on chat with it. So you have a chat log. Your WhatsApp has a record of what they have talked to each other. So you know about your girl, and the girl knows about you. If you both know this project uh, to each other, you two are the only stakeholders of it, because others don't know it. So no problem. We only have to manage each other. That's it. But if you have access to someone to your phone, if someone see the chat log of your WhatsApp, he becomes the stakeholder of your affair as well. Now you know, your girlfriend knows, and that friend as well know. So 3 people know about your things, 3 stakeholders. Now, this boy or this friend, he knows about your affair, about your whatever the relationship that you have. If he knows it, he is part of your stakeholders list, and it's difficult for you to work with him because you know he knows it. He may reveal this matter to the parents of that girl, or he may reveal this matter to your parents. He may use this, get use of this passage to get some benefit for him, or to do something damaging you, something like that. So if that happens, it is a problem. So that's why you always make the list of your stakeholders to a minimum, to a minimum as much as you can. Okay, so if you have something, keep it for yourself. Don't let others know. If they know, they become part of your stakeholders list, and it is costly for you to manage them as well. So we have to limit the stakeholders number. That is why I wrote this example here. Let's see uh, the next part of this. Now, I go to the topic straight away. Now, we are talking about educational setting, institution, students, learning, teaching, assessing, those kind of things. It has different set of stakeholders. Who are they? We have the teachers, lecturers, the academic panel. They are one of the stakeholders. Students, learners, okay, they are another set of stakeholders. We're talking about, let's say, for example, we're talking about a degree in a university. So students are part of your stakeholders list. Teachers are. Government is, because government is funding education. They give money. So you can't get use of that money the way you want. You can't misuse it. You got to listen to what government says. They give you money. You got to exactly do what they funded for. Okay. So government is part of it. They make policies, they make laws, they make regulations, and they are part of your stakeholders list. School, university, administration. When I mean teachers, the academic staff, the administration, we call them non-academic staff. They don't teach, but they manage the academic, the administration of your teaching of your university. So they are part of your stakeholders list. The community, the people. If you take school, the community in the city, they're also part of it. Okay, they want the school to run good. They want this university to deliver good services, good courses, good training, good skill development for their society. So they are part of it. Okay, and parents of the learners, right? The policymakers, the lawmakers, universities and schools themselves, they are all part of this stakeholders list. And the list is not limited to this, it is much more than this. I have just brought in some of them. Okay, right, so we know them. Now, the question is, what is the impact of policy changes? What are the impact of these policy changes? Okay, now this is the implication or the impact of policy changes, theoretical changes, practice changes on the stakeholders. So let me come to the point. When the policy changes, when the theory changes, the policy changes, when the policy changes and the practice changes. When these changes happening, what is the impact that makes in the students? Because student is a stakeholder. What happens to students? What is the impact of it? What are the implications of these changes in students? This is the question. So what happens to students? What happens to teachers? What happens to school administrators? What happens to policymakers? What happens to parents? What happens to the community and society? What happens in schools, educational institutions? This is what you have to discuss in your answers, right? What happens to the educational technology companies? Okay, so let's see some of those here to understand what it means. Now, when the education changes, what happens? The students, what do they feel? What is the impact of that in students' learning life in university? Now, let's say today we are talking about the constructivism. What is constructivism? Constructivism, we have already learned it. Let me explain that to you. Earlier days, we used to learn what the teacher says. So we're not going to build any knowledge. We don't construct any knowledge, brand new knowledge. What teacher knows, he teaches us and we learn it. That's it. But today, the learner-centered learning, learners, they analyze anything, they read anything, they say, they try anything they see around, and they develop some new concepts, new knowledge. They may extend the knowledge what is already existing. So we are constructing some new knowledge. This is the concept. Now, this constructivism, what is the impact, what impact that makes in students' life? So the theory is changing here. Based on this theory, the policy is changing. We tell the teachers, be a facilitator, teach the students, let the students learn themselves. Okay, and you practice that. When this happens, what happens in students' life? Students, they never listen to the teacher. They never listen to the teacher. They never expect the teacher to know everything. They never learn everything what they need to know from the teacher, because the teacher doesn't know many things that the students may find out later. So students have the power, students have the duty, in fact, to go to knowledge from different sources. They have to go to knowledges, to seek knowledge to different sources. So they may have to look into some materials that the teacher never thought of, that the teacher never heard of. The teacher doesn't know, but you still go there and find out some new knowledge from YouTube, from ChatGPT, from Google, from magazines, from journals, from research articles, and you try something out and you figure it out. Okay. So the impact on a student is to learn new things independently on his own to develop new things. That's the impact. There are so many other impacts as well when this changes, but I'm just taking one or two examples in here. Now, the challenge for student is this. Let's say if you are constructing some knowledge on your own, referring different types of documents, referring different sources of knowledge, when you have some doubt to clear, your teacher would not be able to support you because your teacher doesn't know it. You are trying out something and you find out certain things. When you're trying to figure it out, you may have some questions, you may have some unknown gray areas. Who's going to help you to make this gray area clear? Nobody there, because your teacher is not aware of what you want to figure out. So what you do, you have to extend your search. You have to go to Google. You may have to find out some other experts on that as well. Then you find your meta from them. So you have to do your research on your own. There is a big impact. Okay, so one of them, we can discuss many. I just took one example to explain this. Let me tell you a few more. Here, the next part of that one is teachers. The teacher-centered learning, teacher-centered teaching is outdated. We talk about the learner-centered teaching, learner-centered facilitation, learner-centered learning. In that case, teachers, they need to refer many things. They have to have their learning commitment. Teachers cannot go with the same notes, same document, same points which they thought for the previous batch to teach for this new batch. Let's say last year they had a lecture and they have the notes of that. You cannot bring the same notebook to teach your students for this batch, because after 1 year, new batch is coming, and the whole setting of what you thought last year is outdated. Now, for example, every single day when I teach things, I never teach the same thing that I thought for the first batch. I do my own studies. I'm teaching you for about 1 hour now. And today I did loads of research on what I was going to teach. I made a development on the presentation slide, and I left a message on the LMS that I have uploaded a new version of the material today. Please refer it. Do you know why? Because I learned a lot. I read a lot. I referred different types of documents. Because I know I want to teach you new things today, because things change. Okay, they're changing. That's first thing. The next thing is about I want to touch new points for you so that you can do your own research. I'm facilitating you. to learn about teacher-centered learning to learner-centered learning. What are the challenges, right? What is the impact of it to the teachers? You got to do your own research. I can only facilitate. And I discussed a couple of examples in here. You might find out hundreds of different examples on your own because this is learner-centered learning. You learn things, you find out new things. However, teacher, as a lecturer, I definitely have to keep myself ready. I definitely have to keep myself updated. That's a commitment. Okay, that's an impact. People, teachers, they resist when you bring in these kind of things. Teachers, they don't want to commit themselves to learn things to teach again. I learned one quote and I shared that with you before as well. Don't educate your kids to a teacher who has completed his education. Educate your kid from a teacher who is a lifelong learner. He teaches and learns every single day. I'm sorry, he learns and teaches. Every single day he learns and he teaches the evening. That's the teaching. So you need to have this commitment. It is difficult. When you get old, your body get tired. Okay, when you get old, your responsibilities may increase. You get your family, your kids, your grandkids. When those network grows, you will have lots of time to spend with those matters. You don't have time to educate yourself. So you are reluctant. And teachers, they are not happy about that kind of matter. It's an impact. Okay. Let's have a look at these administration. One more example. School administrators, they now have to change themselves. Let's say, for example, we talked about the learner-centered, that's the example. This time, let's talk about the administration connected to technology. Technology-related theories are changing, so the policy is changing, and then the practice is also changing. So school administration has to get adapted to this new technology acceptance. You have to accept the new technology, meaning you used to take the attendance of your students using manual registry. Okay, now you may have to take it online, digital attendance marking. Okay, so this online automated process, your management have to learn it. Okay, earlier days, when you want to submit assignments, I still remember about 5 years ago, before COVID, we used to collect assignments using the printed hard copies. So too many hard copies students print, and that comes to our table. Too many assignments on the table. We mark one by one. You only can mark those at the office because the printed assignments. Now these days the technology has changed. We never print any papers. Paperless administration. No papers. So what you do? You make your soft copies. You submit that soft copies in the LMS. Okay. When this is there, the administration staff may oppose to this. They don't want that to be online because if you have the physically printed document in your table, it is easy for you to administrate because you know how many assignments are submitted, how many is marked, and so on. It is just before your eyes on the table. But if it is on the LMS, you have to dig deep. You have to go inside, find it, and what is marked and what is not marked. That's a bit of until you get used to it. It's hard work. The administration may not support with it. It is an impact. The administration again, when you use technology to teach, okay, earlier days, if you give the soft copy of your notes, they get it printed and they keep it ready. You just distribute those papers to your students. So that's how it happened. But today you don't. You have to upload these documents on the LMS. You have to download those things from the LMS. So all these materials has to be managed. The content of your teaching has to be managed using your learning management system. This is technology related change, theoretical change, policy change, and practice change. This is an impact that happens into this administration. You need to have an IT department here. They have to work on all these technology related matters. The administration has to learn the technology now. It's not easy now. You see, I'm comfortable using Zoom to teach. I'm comfortable. I know all the options they have, so it's easy for me. I'm competent. And we are trying to move to some other software from next month onwards, which is the Office Microsoft Teams. okay, Microsoft Teams, and we're going to, because we are getting more students and it's difficult for us to manage them on Zoom. We cannot maintain the records of all what we have done, so we are trying to move to Microsoft Teams. Now I'm learning it, and I'm a little hesitant to learn because there are so many options. It's difficult for me to manage everything, but I have to somewhat somehow learn, otherwise I will lose my business. So I'm going to. So there's an impact. When you integrate some new technology, you feel odd. You don't feel comfortable. You're not comfortable. This is an impact. Okay. So technology related. Policymakers as well. When the theory changes, policymakers have to make new policies. It's not easy. You have a policy today. You have a law today. And when the theory changes, you have to revise that policy tomorrow. And the policy changes the day after, you have to revise the policy again on the following day. How many laws? You go to the Google and see how many laws and how many times that laws have been repealed and revised. So you have a law, you outdate that, you repeal that, you cancel that, and you make another one because the theory is changing. That's hard work. Making law is not easy. As a process in the parliament sometimes. Some policies that we have that regulates education related institutions, awarding bodies and universities are made by the parliament, upper house and the lower house of the UK. So it is a process. Lawmaking is not an overnight work. You have to draft your law that you have to, it has to go for first reading, second reading, third reading, right? Royal assent, then first house, the lower house and the upper house. That's a process. It takes months to do the revision. It takes months to complete your law, your policy. And the policy is made when you have the theory changes, you have to revise that again. So another couple of months on that. We spend a lot of time on it. It's difficult. A lot of time is okay. We can spend time, but the time you never spend only time. You have to have the learning from it. You have to learn the theory. You have to revise your policy accordingly. Then you have to develop your practice. That's not easy. Okay, parents as well. Right, parents have big impact because of this theory. Now, when the students start changes in practice, parents have financial commitments here, learning commitments there, okay, and your emotional commitments, lots of commitments you have to do. It is again a big impact. For example, if your classroom is transformed from your manual traditional classroom to a digital classroom, they want to work on that. They might be using Google Classroom or some other paid version. There are so many free versions of it. Open source, we call it open source software. That's free for you. You can get use of it. Universities are using it. Moodle is a free version, open source. Blackboard is free version, open source, and there are so many other paid versions as well. So universities, they adapt one of those, either free one or the open source one or the paid version of it. When they adapt to this, kids, they may need the support of you to do some work on their behalf. They may say, my teacher told me today to do this assignment at home, take a picture and upload this to this LMS. Parents, they never heard of LMS before. So they have to learn about LMS now as an impact. So that, and financial impact. When your kids want to learn things online, you may have to facilitate them, providing them internet, providing them the devices, maybe a laptop, maybe a tablet, maybe an iPad or a phone. Okay, you may have to provide those computer. These are all costly things. When you bring those computers and phones, that will make different problem at home. When you bring one for your elder kid, the younger kid would say, I also want one. When you bring these computers to them, that is not solely used for learning purposes. They may use that for different entertainment purposes as well. They may watch movies, unwanted things, right? So it's big hustle. These are all impacts. When the theory changes, you will have problems like this. These are all impacts. Okay, so there are so many other. You can have a look at it, and let me have a look at this again. The education technology companies, the technology, when the policy changes, technology companies have to revise their products. Okay, they provide you some ed tech. I hope you understand. Ed tech means education technology. Okay, as the first. Okay, they provide education related softwares. LMS is one of those, right? Learning apps. There are so many hundreds of thousands of learning apps. If you want to learn one language, there are apps. They give you some free version of it. You can go up to certain level, and if you want to go beyond that, you may have to pay for it. Premium, we call it. You can use certain features for free. If you want to go for advanced features, you may have to pay for it. Okay, etc. Now, these technology companies cannot keep their product, keep the application as it is. When the technology changes, when the policy changes, when the practice changes, you have to upgrade that. You have to update your thing. So you have to redevelop. You have to relaunch your product, developing additional features. You may have to do code writings. You may have to improve your interface, your backend work. All right, so much of things. So the product you made, it is not as it is. You got to definitely improve that. And that is the headache. Okay. You have to ever develop your ad technology applications and products so that you can cope up with the changes that happen. So it's an impact. Companies, they spend millions of dollars to build one app. After a couple of months, the changing policy says this app doesn't contain what we really need now. So you have to add some features. Sometimes totally you have to outdate that and you have to bring in some new application that is compatible for this new change. So you have to spend another millions of dollars to build that new app. So financial impact, profit related impact. Some technology that you want to bring in, you want to develop application with, you may want new human resources to develop some kind of application. The people you have inside your organization may not be competent with. So you may have to bring in new people from new labor market to develop those things. You may have to hire new people. Hiring people is big hassle, big problem. Okay, we need some lecturers. Now we are in the process to recruit them. It's not easy. I want a lecturer dedicated to the teaching. They have to be always on time, always on delivery, always up to date. And I don't think there is a lecturer like that. I mean, it's difficult to find. There are people, okay, but it's difficult to find. And finding the wrong one will cost you a lot of money. You find them, you pay them, they don't do the job. Students start complaining, and then they leave. I get another one. So it is about recruitment, losing them, the exits, attrition. Okay, they leave, they turn over staff turnover, they leave, and again I have to replace, and then I have to fill again, right? So that's a process. It's not easy. So when the technology changes, right, we have to replace our staff to develop new technology related products. That's not easy. Okay, so these are all examples of impacts that happens when theory, policy, and practice changes in education. Okay, so this impact differ party to party, stakeholder to stakeholder. We have listed those stakeholders: students, parents, technology companies, government, policymakers, parents, society. There are different parties. Okay, so this is it from me. Thank you very much. Have your own reading, do your own independent learning, develop your knowledge. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. I'll see you later.